Hey, how's it going, folks? Now, when my mentor guided me through 2013, or actually 2012, after 2013 to 2014, he always guided me about recession. And, I was young, 23, 24, around that time. And, many people say to me right now, you're Chinese, why don't I buy houses? And my mentor guided me. And not only just that, I saw my father, the investment and what he earned and what he loses. And I guess in life, you make life choices, right? And whatsoever. Now, so-called right now in the Western world, you're going to meet the inflation target. Country who uses the most of the plastic cards, right, in their livelihood or getting paid in the bank, pay slips instead of cash in hand, will never beat the inflation. And the reason, I'll tell you why. All right, even though if the country says tomorrow we meet the 2% or 3%, it will balance it out for the last 1 or 2 years within that range. Even though we are balanced out, our grocery will never going to go down. And here's the reason behind. People say our currency will go up and goes down if you get inflation because of year by year. But let's not talk about that. Let's talk about real reality sense, because I don't think much people know about it. And my mentor didn't guide me through during that time of inflation. All he cares about for me is like recession. So let's just say, right, a car is a different story. Technology is a different story, right? You can always do that. I'm just saying like a day-to-day basis, like buying food or things like that, which is going to skyrocket food prices for Uber Eats as well. Now, when it comes to food, right, and you to know the notion, right, I only speak on food because that's what everyone knows. But in cost in generally, like all the tradies or whatever, what you guys name it, it always going to skyrocket because of the industry or world rate, the materials going up. When materials going up, then everything's going up, all right? Now, first things first, I only talk about food first, all right? Let's just say I'll say my new godfather, my new mentor right now, who tells me what's going on. And I don't think many people understand. Where he gets the sources from, is a farmer from Mildura, to buy a 10 kilos worth of grapes, a box. If you know the direct from the farmer, of course you're going to buy cheap, right? But obviously you have to buy numbers, right? But then again, all these companies, they're buying numbers. So it can be like $10 a kilo, $10 for 15 kilos. And now grapes right now is like $15 a kilo. So you obviously you make $150 on that crate already, right? Disregards if it's like going off or mold. That's not my problem, right? Food, it has a price tag. When it goes down, going off or close to expiry date, obviously it's gonna go to close to zero, right? I don't want to talk about that. We'll talk about like food, all right? Then he tells me like how the supplier, they can use their trucks, and they got a middleman and a middleman and a middleman. The middleman is making the money. The brokers are making the money, right? So for example, let's just say a contractor, a supplier, a sources supplier, get the source from whatever the Mildura, they freight it to a depot warehouse in Melbourne, or where the Coles and Woolworths pick up their stuff, right? And they have the middleman. They're making the money, right? Then obviously it's depending on the current market, how much is that grape worth nowadays, right? The grape worth nowadays is $15, as I'm speaking in Coles and Woolworths. I don't care what you guys kind of say, you can find cheaper, whatever. But why is it $15? Obviously, Woolworths is a corporation or brand, is a big supermarket, and as well, there's like labor, shipping and storage and fridge, transportation, adding the factor. So you got the middleman. So maybe Coles and Woolworths don't have the middleman, but they have a middleman. They have to get the sources, right, from the grapes and whatever. When they get it from them, and they can't have the price, right? And also, not only just that, but also with just the middleman, there will be broker after broker after broker. That's in life in general, whether we buy our technology or whatever. You can't just directly buy from the sources. It doesn't work that way. But if you know where you get the sources and sell it in your place, that's where you got these independent stores that you go to the local fruit and veg shop that is costing cheaper than Coles and Woolworths, a lot more, right? But why is Coles and Woolworths is going to cost more? And I have to give you the analogy of the industry award rate, right? This is the Australian, the industry standard of what's the requirement minimum pay, right? And obviously you've got super and leave and blah blah blah, insurance, work compo and public liability on top as well. It's adding every single dollar to that visual, and that's why you see like some places you see donuts is costing an arm and a fortune and a leg, or croissant costing an arm and a leg. But honestly, when they make that croissant, it's like maybe like $1 or $50 or $2 to make one. But to the end, it's like that. When you have too many middlemen in the middle, or a broker, or whatever what you guys call it in the middle, they are making a cut after cut after cut. So for example, let's just say I wanted to sell my bag, but beautiful bag. Then obviously somewhere in Italy will have to communicate with the sources, or they cannot communicate with me directly. They communicate with those who are in the broker or is in the field or whatever. And what I'm saying is that even though if we meet the inflation target, right, there's too many brokers, and that's why there's too many industry award rates, right? And that's why I say grape will never go down. Even though they say, oh, inflation, whatever, it will never go down. That price will always be consistent around the same price. It fluctuates. People will, companies will have to make it as a different price tag based on what it values, all right? People will say, look, that Nike shoes cost $10. Nah, I'm not going to buy it. But if it's like $300, I'll buy it for sure. But it's up to the people, right? There's sometimes when you go to Foot Locker or you go to the shoe store and you look at that shoe, man, I really like that one. Oh gosh, that color is the best. Ugh, yuck. Same design, and it's like that because they know what the color, the style and the color that it's worth a lot of money, and they price it. There's not really a big figure on that price on that shoe, to be honest with you guys, right? Whether you can hear in the back, when I was in high school age or primary school age, where there's a lot of talks where in Vietnam they've been sewing all these shoes up and costing them $2-3 per day labor, each of those workers every day, working their butts off in 12 or 15 hours a day, right? Now that shoes that is presented in whatever Foot Locker is now worth like $300 or $400 or $500. I'm not going to get into details, but I'm just saying for example, right? But when you have a Western world who has this high, with the industry award rate and getting sources and brokers getting money, of course it is going to be a ludicrous money, and it's price gouging the way how it is. And that's why I said it's not only just food. Just look about building materials, and not only just that, to look about like car materials or whatever. I'm just going to say anything, right? Just put that formula to one by one with industry war or industry war, right? And the reason why I'm saying this is because ATO is cracking out all these companies and saying, hang on, you're making that much money, and hang on, how come all your workers you're not paying much on your workers? It doesn't match up. You have to pay up, all right? Now, obviously, you guys are gonna say bourgeoisie, right? Like you gotta defeat with the employer, the ones who are making the big money, punish them a lot. But honestly thinking, if you look at it now, more and more Western world, right? Workers are hiring less and less because they're gonna hire the best of the best workers and to mass produce them to work, with the highest KPI and bringing the most profit here. Where if you go to Asia, a third world country, they don't care who the hell they hire. They hire 20, 30, 40, 100, 1,000 people to work in a hotel, right? You'll never hear that in the Western world. Where you go to restaurants or whatever in Bali or Vietnam or whatever the third world country, there's so many workers there. Even though there's no customer, they still can afford them. Here, we cannot afford even one or two. It's a cost an arm and a leg. With the labor is costing too much money. There's too much workers, right? Or X, Y, and Z. And I'm not here to say, good or bad about it. I'm just saying the reality is that the labor costs too much. And when the labor costs too much, and we've got hourly pay rates, not like other countries that have monthly pay rates, that's where we essentially are selective on workers. And that's why we have this unemployment rate is plummet, because we cannot achieve it. Even though employers cannot afford to hire workers because it's costing an arm and a fortune and a kidney. And when you have like that, that's why they have to, to hire less workers and to maximize their profits and to stay afloat. And I don't want to say maximize profit. I would like to say to sustain and make the ATO happy. You know, the ATO is getting 33%. Then you got 10% on GST. Then you got super to pay your wage, your supers for your workers, and you got work insurance, and you got your public liability. Then you got rental or whatever, and then you got land tax on top, and you got council rates, and there's so much afloat ahead. Where if you go to a third world country to start up, establish a business, whatever, there's none of that big headache. It probably fraction of it is gone already. More than 50 or 70% is gone already. So that's why I say this inflation thing will never hit the target. Even we hit the target, but the people that suffer the most is us. We are going to be suffered the most. And people complain that wages not going up. Okay, no problem. Wages not going up or whatever. If wages go up, then they have to hire the selective of the workers. So that's why I can say this inflation thing will never beaten down. And even if it does beaten down, it's not going to make a huge difference on the prices, whatever what we got to say disregards. And obviously you got to say to me, but William, right, the grapes in Coles and Woolworths is the A grade. Of course it's an A grade, you know, but how long has it been there sitting there in the fridge, you know? Oh, the sizes and everything like that. Of course, you're buying the A grade, you're buying the best of the best. Doesn't have an odd shape, doesn't have an odd color, doesn't have an odd mold. Of course, you're having the best of the best. In comparison to the one, the B and C and D, it's coming from the same plant, right? From you know, whatever how it is, right? And when you have like that, I started to question a lot, right? And when you question a lot about the whole thing, then you started to see the whole thing lighten, right? So that's what I said. We wanted the best of the best. Of course, Coles and Woolworths. That's why we're charging premium prices for $15, or it can be fluctuate to $20 or $25 a kilo, depending on season to season. But so when you have like that, that's why I said this inflation thing for us normal citizens is going to get worse and worse and worse. It's not going to get any better, because after coronavirus lockdown, we have literally made ourselves to be cashless. And unfortunately, I'm one of them. Right? I use plastic cards. I wish I didn't do that. I wish I don't. But unfortunately, the whole society is like that. So when you have a society is into plastic cards, obviously all the small businesses, a lot of them is going to start to jack up the prices, or they have a lot of penalty fines with the ATOs. And many of them is either they jack up the prices of their goods, or close down because they cannot pay back with the ATO. The ATO with the tax ban, you have to pay every 3 months, right? And if everyone's using the plastic cards, whatever, that's where it becomes. Could you imagine if the society doesn't have plastic cards, or, you know, with the cashless society, everything will cost very, very cheap, you know? You don't have the government intervene every single dollar that we spend, right? So when you have like that, that's the way how it is.